Hello guys and welcome back to the channel for those who are returning and welcome for those who are new. This is Kadima Gaming Place. I am Kadima, your host. Just a quick video on updating you guys on what's going on in the channel. I know it has been a very long time without me updating or uploading anything. The reason being I haven't played anything particularly interesting of late. I've been playing eFootball and I've also been playing Dragon's Dogma 1 Dark Arisen, just in preparation for what's actually to come in within the next week or so with the release of Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, I'm very hyped with Dragon's Dogma 2. I've been waiting for this game for quite a long time, so my expectations are quite high. I don't think I will be getting disappointed. But in any case, for you guys who are interested in playing Dragon's Dogma 2 or just have a few considerations still keeping you from buying the game, maybe this video will help you a little bit in making a decision, as I plan to discuss with you guys what to expect when playing Dragon's Dogma 2. In the background, just in case you are curious, you can see me in the character creator app on the PS5, which is now available to download. And basically, it just gives you a heads up in creating your characters, both your main character as Arisen and your pawn, which will travel and follow you in your adventures in Dragon's Dogma 2. Also, I'd like to give credit to the person that inspired my two characters that I'll be using. The characters in the background that I'm creating are actually copies from another YouTuber who designed these himself. Credit to you, my friend. Unfortunately, I didn't really pay attention to your name while I was creating the characters. But if you happen to be watching this video, feel free to identify yourself and take credit for creating these characters, which you guys can see in the background. You can't tell straight away what's being created, but by the end of the video, I'm pretty sure you guys might be familiar with the two characters that I'll be using when playing Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, just another update on another game that I'm very much looking forward to it before we start this one is Rise of the Ronin. I was planning to play simultaneously Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin. But after some consideration and considering how much time I will probably be spending on Dragon's Dogma 2, I might actually leave Rise of the Ronin for a later date and focus on playing Dragon's Dogma 2 instead. Now, talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, which is the number one reason for this video, what are we expecting with this game? Now, there are some updates in the vocations that we had from the previous entry in this franchise. Now we'll be having 10 available vocations in Dragon's Dogma 2, and these will be the Fighter, the Archer, the Thief, the Mage, which will be the 4 starting ones. And then you can choose and evolve to the Warrior, Sorcerer, Magic Archer, Mystic Spearhand, the Trickster, and Warfarer. Now, some of these are Arisen exclusive, so only you can evolve to these vocations, whilst your pawn can only evolve to Fighter, Archer, Thief, Mage, Warrior, or Sorcerer. Each of these vocations have their strengths and their weaknesses. Some are good for melee, some are good for ranged combat. Some will be focused on physical damage, some will be focused on magic and elemental damage, some will be more of tankiness or damage output. Others will be more focused on supporting and healing the party, so to speak. So when you choose what vocation you plan to use for your adventure in Dragon's Dogma 2, you should take these things into consideration. Now, it's not for me to decide which class is best. As I said previously, they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. But one thing I would recommend is consider what do you think other players might be using? And the reason why I say this is because with the pawn system, you will be able to summon other pawns to assist you. And most players will be using pawns that will provide support, such as a sorcerer that will be doing the healing. Some might be using a fighter so they can get the pawn to tank the enemies and absorb the damage while they do the damage, outputting and killing the enemies as they are distracted with the pawn. So you have to take these things into consideration, because when you summon other pawns to your group, uh, you know a lot of these will be out there to choose from. One thing that you are probably not going to find is pawns that will be responsible to dish out damage that much. So you should probably create your own character with the main focus of dishing out damage, whilst when you get pawns to join your party, those should be focused on supporting you in dishing out that damage. So a good example of this would be, for example, if you create an archer, your main focus will be dishing out damage from afar. So your pawn, for example, should be either a tank, which will distract the enemies while you do the damage from afar, or maybe a mage, because as a mage they will be able to heal you, they will be able to provide you with elemental damage on top of your physical damage from your arrows. Now, if you use a mage, there's a problem here, is that both of you will be ranged attacks. So you should maybe consider, when you summon a pawn from another player, try to get a pawn that will be tanky, so he or she can distract the enemies while you and your own pawn do the main fighting itself. Now, as you can see in the background, that is my character. Obvious name for an obvious face, and I will be playing as an archer. This means that my pawn will most likely be a mage, because I'm going to need the heals provided by the mage. When I summon pawns from other players, I will be looking for maybe another DPS, such as the thief, or a tank. Probably both will be the best combination here for me to start and to progress, at least for the initial areas of the map. Now, when it comes to weapons, we all know, if you played Dragon's Dogma 2, that each class has its own weapons. Unfortunately, now being the archer, you do not have access to the daggers that you had in Dragon's Dogma 1. Meaning that all your combat will be ranged. You will have no way to dish out damage at close quarters. So I would, again, advise you guys that you get yourselves a pawn that can do that for you, because they will tank the enemies, or they will keep the enemies distracted by providing you with the close quarters combat, meaning that the enemies are more likely go and fight them than they are to come and fight you, who are doing the damage from afar. In any case, you can always play with this mechanic in different ways. You can always try to go on top of a little bit of a rock or a cliff, something that you can climb on, giving you a bit of an advantage that any mob, any enemy that might try to reach you, they will take some time to do so. Meaning that you can always move to a new location when that's the case. Anyway, this is just some advice when it comes to starting the game, and maybe making a decision when it comes to what to summon, what pawns to summon to support you, and what class you should create when you start the game. Always do remember that as you progress through the game, you can always change class, not just evolve into the magical archer, for example. You can just swap and become a fighter if you want to. Your character stats, as explained by the devs, will be changed to reflect that change. So this didn't happen before, but it does happen in Dragon's Dogma 2 now, which makes sense, and it's a very welcome change. So you can always, later in the game, if you change your mind, go for something different, because you know you are not exactly stuck to the one option you get from when you first start the game. You can always change your mind later on the line And you can always change your mind when it comes to your own pawn. So feel free to experiment, see what works for you, experiment with what makes more sense, what fits your play style. Maybe actually the areas you might find yourselves, if you are in an area that is full of bandits and most of them are going to swarm you and surround you, you might consider changing for a fighter so you can actually sustain the damage and you can focus on close quarters combat. Or if you are in an area that's full of monsters and you want to stay away from them, you might want to go archer, you might want to go mage. All these options will be revealed to which is best when the game is actually fully released, but again, you can always change, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. When it comes to the story, I don't want to plan to do any spoilers here, so I'm not going to reveal anything when it comes to the spoiler. But what I do want to let you guys know is that I have read somewhere online that your character race will influence certain things as you progress through the story. An example of this is if you play as an elf, just like I am, as you saw me creating Legos in the background, apparently you will be able to understand Elvish language. So if you have an elf and you interact with other elves, you'll be able to understand, and maybe you will be treated in a different way than if you are a normal human or if you are one of the cat creatures, to call it that way. A Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls Online. In any case, if you become one of those Khajiit, let's call it like that, you will be treated different from humans as well. So when you make these choices on what character to create, take these things into consideration. Another thing that I want you to notice is right now as you look upon the screen, there's the weight of my pawn is 83. Now, why does weight matter? In this game, weight matters because it will impact not only how fast you move, but also your item capacity. So, the bigger your character is, the more luggage, if you want to call it that way, you can carry with you. The more loot you can stockpile, the more you can carry. But this comes at a price. The heavier you are, the slower you move. So I think it is important also when you create your character that you try to find a balance between you being able to freely move and you being able to carry with you as much items as possible. Because one thing that did annoy me a little bit when I first started playing Dragon's Dogma back in the day was that you had to constantly go back and sell your items so you could make some money, so you could buy better weapons, or you maybe you found a sword and you were fully stacked. I mean, you can always use your pawns to stack the items for you, which is a good strategy, and I recommend you guys doing that as you progress. But ultimately speaking, you come across so much loot in this game that you will easily get yourselves overburdened, and when you do, your stamina takes longer to regen, you move much slower, and all these things might affect your gameplay. In any case, these are just my first tips for the game, and of course just more of an update on you guys who have been following me for some time, who have been subscribers for some time. I would like to remind you all that we are very close to 2,500 subscribers. As soon as we hit that mark, I will be doing another giveaway. Probably I'll be doing a giveaway of Dragon's Dogma 2 for whatever console you guys play on, or for PC. If you guys are interested, don't forget to subscribe, and the sooner we get there, the sooner I get this giveaway going. Any case, this video has been going on for quite some time, just for me to update you on what's going on. Thank you very much for all your support. I'll be seeing you guys shortly when Dragon's Dogma 2 is released. Feel free to join, because I'll be live streaming my gameplay of Dragon's Dogma 2, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching the video, and again, please subscribe if you haven't just yet. I'll see you guys next time. Cheerio!